This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. The Republican Party is good at a few things. One of the things they are just really, really solid at is hiring dum-dums, electing morons to run states, to hold office. From Donald Trump all the way down to your lowest GOP governor. Today, I want to talk about Tate Reeves, the governor of Mississippi, who is in supreme fashion failing the people of Mississippi relative to managing the COVID pandemic. Right now, Mississippi per capita, if it were a country, would be the number 2 worst place on the planet to live. And they are doing nothing as a state to curb the spread of the virus. In fact, they are going the opposite direction, a la Florida and Texas, where they are pushing back against sensible, science-based methods to suppress the spread of the virus. Yesterday, Tate Reeves went on with Jake Tapper from CNN and really just made an idiot of himself, not being able to answer simple questions or talk about what his plan for as governor of a state, what he plans to do to stop the carnage and the death that is being faced by Mississippians right now in grand fashion, when there is a free and effective vaccine. Instead, he wants to talk about other states. He wants to talk about Kentucky and West Virginia, like J-Tap brought him on to talk about other states. Anyway, watch this clip. It's a little longer than what I normally play. I'll put the ticker up there, so if you've already seen it, you can see where it is and skip ahead. Watch this.
Let's talk about what you and the legislature in Mississippi is doing, because I'm sure I don't need to tell you, Mississippi this week became the state with the worst number of coronavirus deaths per capita. In fact, if Mississippi were its own country, you would be second in the world only to Peru in terms of deaths per capita. That's a horrible, heartbreaking statistic. So with all due respect, Governor, your way is failing. Are you going to try to change anything to change this horrible statistic from what you're doing already?
Yeah, well, obviously, in Mississippi, our legislature is a part-time legislature. Sometimes I wonder if in America, if our Congress was part-time, we wouldn't be in a better position. But let's talk a little bit about
better position than
Mississippi
what?
And where
Your
we
state
are
is
with the virus.
second worst in the world. I mean, how can you say that?
Let's talk about where we are and why. Well, Jake, let's talk about where we are and why we are there. In large part, just like the summer of 2020, it was the Sun Belt states that saw the initial surge from the Delta variant. It started, the first state that I saw seeing upticks was Missouri, and then it was Arkansas, and then it was Louisiana, and now it's Mississippi. Our surge went from less than 100 cases per day in Mississippi to 3,600, much like what happened in the country of Israel, like what happened in the country of Great Britain and in England. We saw a very quick spike, and now we're seeing a very quick decline in the total number of cases. We spiked at about 3,600. We're now half of that in our state. As you know, right. Unfortunately, fatalities is a lagging indicator when it comes to the virus. It is a lagging indicator, and so timing has as much to do with that statistic that you used as anything else. As we see in 2021, what occurred in 2020 as the Delta variant moves around the country, and it's going to happen. The president wants you to believe that the Delta variant is only affecting Republicans in red states.
Change anything?
That's just not true. That is not a fact. That is just not true. And so what you're going to see.
So, Governor, my point is this: you compared yourself to Israel.
The Delta
Israel
variant is going to continue to move around the country, and you're going to see fatalities rise in other states. And so here's what we need to focus on, Jake. Okay, let's focus on this.
But my question is, what are you going to do to change this?
The best thing for Americans to do to protect themselves from the virus, and again, We believe in personal responsibility. Individual Americans and individual Mississippians
So you're not going to change anything?
make good decisions to take care of themselves. The best thing that Americans can do, number one, is to talk to their doctor about potentially getting the vaccine, because in our state, some 89% of those hospitalized and some 87% of those who are of the deaths are actually coming from those who are unvaccinated. So the number one thing that you can do is you can talk to your doctor about getting vaccinated. The number two thing is, if you get the virus, and this is very important, if you get the virus, please talk to your doctor about the monoclonal antibody treatment.
You're not going to change anything.
That is the best way in which to do that. And unfortunately, the Biden administration continues to try to reduce the allocation to red states like Mississippi and Florida of that monoclonal antibody treatment.
Governor,
it's outrageous.
Governor, if Mississippi were a country, you would have the second worst per capita death toll in the world. And I'm saying, are you going to do anything to try to change that?
Jake, as I mentioned earlier, deaths, unfortunately, are a lagging indicator.
So the inner monologue there, the inner dialogue in his head was, what did I get myself into? Why did I agree to do this interview? You could see it. Nonsense. No answers. Abdicating his role as a leader in the state, as the governor, the executive of the state, failing the people of Mississippi, doing nothing. And then when asked, well, what about the monoclonal antibodies? What is it with these people who are refusing a now fully approved vaccine from the FDA and instead railing on about actual experimental treatments? Monoclonal antibodies has an emergency use authorization right now, but it is absolutely an experimental thing right now. It is not a widespread treatment. But instead, they want to talk about that. They wanted to talk about hydroxychloroquine. They wanted to talk about injecting bleach. Now they want to talk about ivermectin. Anything to distract from actually just doing what it takes to make everybody safe. Wearing a mask and getting a vaccine. A safe, with proven efficacy, free vaccine. You can walk into a pharmacy and get the thing. But instead, they want to ramble on about other things, while thousands of people in Mississippi are infected and dying. And his rambling on about lagging indicator, it is self-evident. Of course that, well, you want to talk about infections, then you want to talk about hospitalizations, then you want to talk about deaths. That's how it happens, guy. You can't talk about deaths from COVID before you talk about infection rates, because you get infected, many times you are hospitalized, and then you die. That is what the lagging indicator means, dumb shit. So rather than do your job, you are presiding over carnage in the state of Mississippi. To his credit, he does say, well, get the vaccine. Well, but what he says was, talk to your physician about the possibility of getting the vaccine. He doesn't just advocate, go get yourself vaccinated. It's all of these steps, because I don't want to come out and say with my flap mouth that getting the vaccine is absolutely the way to go, because that doesn't play well in MAGA world. That doesn't play well with the devotees of Donald Trump. It is chaos on the Republican landscape right now. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think. You can leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. Thank you for joining me. Follow me on social media. I would absolutely love to connect with you there. And if I bring you value, and only if I do, please consider supporting my work on the platform for as little as $2 a month. You can become a channel member by clicking the join button below, or going over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. But only if I'm your flavor. I'm not for everybody. I get that. But if there's somebody out there who does bring you value more than me, go support that person. Throw a couple bucks their way every month. These times are more important than ever to support independent media. I appreciate your time and your attention. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.